Have you ever felt so weak inside that even praying felt heavy? Have you ever wondered what Jesus truly wants to hear from you when your strength seems to disappear? And have you ever asked yourself if there are simple, small, sincere words that could bring you closer to his heart when you feel most fragile? Saint Thérèse of Lisieux believed that weakness is not a barrier to Jesus, it is an open door. She taught that the smallest whispers, spoken from an honest heart, can console the heart of God more deeply than long, eloquent prayers spoken from pride or fear. And so today, we walk the little way to discover something tender, hidden, and profoundly comforting. There are 5 small things you must tell Jesus when you feel weak, 5 simple truths that please him, strengthen you, and draw your soul into his embrace. When a soul dares to speak honestly from its weakness, Jesus bends down to listen more closely than ever. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. Before we continue, subscribe if you long to walk this little way with us, a path where even your weakness becomes a gift. Saint Thérèse understood weakness better than most. She suffered interior dryness, physical illness, misunderstanding, spiritual darkness, and yet she lived her entire life resting in Jesus' love like a small child rests in the arms of a loving father. She discovered that Jesus does not reject weak souls. He seeks them. He delights in them. He draws near to them because they give him room to show his tenderness. Imagine a quiet evening in the convent. The hallway is dim, lit only by the soft glow of an oil lamp. Thérèse feels exhausted, discouraged, and spiritually dry. She kneels in her little cell and whispers the simplest words, not polished prayers, but honest confessions of the heart. And those simple sentences become flowers offered to Jesus, more fragrant to him than any lofty speech. This is the secret of the little way. You do not need strength to please Jesus, only sincerity. Weakness is not something to hide from him. Weakness is something to show him. Weakness is where love begins. Weakness is where grace enters. The 5 things we will discover in this journey are not complicated teachings. They are soft, childlike phrases, simple enough for anyone to say, powerful enough to transform your relationship with Jesus, and tender enough to console his sacred heart. Maybe you have felt ashamed of your weakness. Maybe you believed God wanted your strength. Maybe you thought that being fragile disqualified you from holiness. But Thérèse teaches the opposite. Your weakness is the very place where Jesus wants to meet you. The little way is not built on perfection. It is built on trust, on honesty, on smallness offered with love. Because when you feel weak, Jesus does not step away. He steps closer. The first small thing you must tell Jesus when you feel weak is perhaps the simplest of all. And yet, it is the one that opens heaven more quickly than any other. It is the phrase Saint Thérèse whispered again and again in the quiet corners of her soul. Jesus, I need you. Not a long explanation, not a detailed description of your pain, not a justification for why you're struggling, just a small, trembling confession of dependence. Saint Thérèse believed that admitting your need is not a failure. It is an act of deep trust. She wrote, "It is confidence and nothing but confidence that must lead us to love." To need Jesus is not to be spiritually immature. To need Jesus is to be spiritually alive. Imagine Thérèse in the convent garden. The sky is grey, her body is tired from illness, her spirit feels empty. She tries to pray, but feels nothing stirring inside. And so, with all the simplicity of a child who knows her father is listening, she whispers, "Jesus, I need you." That whisper becomes her strength, because weakness becomes beautiful when it is offered honestly. When you say, "Jesus, I need you," you are doing 3 things at once. You are humbling yourself as admitting you cannot carry everything alone. You are opening your heart, allowing grace to enter the places you've kept locked. You are honoring Jesus, because nothing pleases him more than being invited into your weakness. You see, strength does not move Jesus the way weakness does. Strength gives him less room to act. Weakness gives him everything. Think about your own life. There are days when you feel overwhelmed, days when your emotions feel heavy and unsteady, days when you try to be strong but end up exhausted, days when prayer feels dry, empty, or distant. Thérèse would tell you, those are the days Jesus is closest. Those are the days he listens more tenderly. Those are the days he waits for just one whisper. I need you. This phrase pleases his heart because it is a declaration of truth. You were never meant to live without him. Your soul was created to depend on him the way a child depends on a loving father. And so, when you feel weak, do not hide. Do not pretend. Do not force yourself into a strength that isn't real. Simply sit quietly, maybe with tears in your eyes, maybe with nothing else to offer, and let these words rise gently from your heart. Jesus, I need you. This is not a request he ignores. It is a request he rushes toward. The second small thing you must tell Jesus when you feel weak is a phrase Saint Thérèse carried like a secret flame in her heart. It is the whisper that turns fear into surrender, confusion into peace, and restlessness into trust. The phrase is, Jesus, I trust you. Not, I understand everything. Not, I feel strong. Not, I know what's coming next. But simply, I trust you. Thérèse believed deeply that trust is the shortest road to God. She wrote, "How happy I am to feel myself so imperfect and to rely solely on God." For her, trust was not an emotion, it was a decision, a small, steady choice of the heart. Imagine Thérèse walking through the convent hallway late at night. The lamps flicker softly. Her steps are slow. She feels a wave of discouragement, a fear she cannot name. She stops, places her hand lightly over her heart, and whispers the words she knows Jesus loves most. Jesus, I trust you. And in that gentle act of surrender, peace begins to settle like soft falling light. You see, weakness becomes overwhelming only when we try to control it. Fear becomes paralyzing only when we try to solve it alone. Sorrow becomes heavy only when we refuse to place it in his hands. But when you whisper, Jesus, I trust you, everything shifts. Why does this small phrase please Jesus so deeply? Because trust is love in its purest form. Trust tells him, you are good even when I don't understand. You are near even when I don't feel you. You are working even when I see nothing. You are holding me even when I fall. And nothing moves his sacred heart more than a soul who trusts him in its weakness. Think of the last time you felt overwhelmed, disappointed, or lost. Your heart beat fast, your thoughts raced. You didn't know what to do. Perhaps you prayed, but perhaps you also feared your prayer wasn't enough. Thérèse would take your hand in that moment and say, do not complicate your prayer, say only, Jesus, I trust you. That is enough, because trust is not about knowing the path, it is about knowing the one who walks with you. When you feel weak, whisper this phrase slowly, Jesus, I trust you. Let it fall into your heart like rain falling over a dry field. Let it soften your fear. Let it quiet your racing thoughts. Let it rest inside you the way a small child rests against a loving parent. Even if your trust feels fragile, broken, or trembling, Jesus cherishes it. Even the smallest act of trust is a treasure to him. And so, when weakness rises in you, speak this gentle truth. Jesus, I trust you. It will open your heart to the peace he longs to give you. The third small thing you must tell Jesus when you feel weak is a phrase Saint Thérèse of Lisieux repeated often, quietly, sincerely, with the softness of a child who knows she is loved. It is not a request. It is not a confession. It is a simple declaration that warms the heart of Jesus more than you can imagine. The phrase is, Jesus, I love you. Not, I love you perfectly. Not, I love you the way I should. Not, I love you with great emotion. Just the gentle truth. I love you. Thérèse discovered that Jesus does not measure love by intensity or eloquence. He measures it by sincerity. She wrote, love attracts love. My little way is simply to let myself be loved and to love in return. For her, weakness was not an obstacle to love. It was the very place where love becomes real. Imagine Thérèse sitting at her small wooden desk, feeling spiritually dry, her heart heavy with fatigue. She cannot concentrate on prayer. Her thoughts drift. She feels distant from God, and yet she does the simplest, most beautiful thing. She lifts her eyes toward the crucifix on the wall and whispers, Jesus, I love you, even if I feel nothing. That whisper delights heaven. Because love spoken from weakness is more precious than love spoken from joy. You might wonder, how can I say I love you when I feel weak, discouraged, or empty? Isn't that being dishonest? Thérèse teaches the opposite. Saying I love you during weakness is the purest kind of love, because it costs something. It is a gift, not a feeling. It is a choice, not a mood. It is an offering, not a performance. And Jesus receives it with tenderness. Think of the times in your life when you felt empty. Those moments when you didn't feel spiritual, didn't feel strong, didn't feel joyful. Those are the moments when a small whisper of love means the most. When your heart feels numb, say it. When you feel ashamed, say it. When you feel you've failed, say it. When you feel far from God, say it. Jesus is not looking for perfect love. He is looking for honest love. And when you speak it, even in a whisper, even with trembling lips, it pleases him deeply. Love is what Jesus desires most, not because he needs it, but because you become who you truly are when you give it. You were created to love him. Your soul rests when it says these words. Weakness does not silence love. Weakness purifies it. So in your moments of exhaustion, discouragement, or fear, lift your heart gently and whisper, Jesus, I love you. This small phrase wraps your weakness in tenderness and draws you closer to his sacred heart. The fourth small thing you must tell Jesus when you feel weak is a phrase that Saint Thérèse of Lisieux whispered often, sometimes with tears, sometimes with peace, but always with a humble heart. It is the phrase that opens the soul to healing, releases the weight of guilt, and reveals the deepest truth of spiritual childhood. The phrase is, Jesus, forgive me. Not in shame, not in fear, not in self-condemnation, but with childlike trust, the way a little one runs into the arms of a tender father, believing completely in his mercy. Thérèse believed that Jesus is far more ready to forgive than we are to ask. She wrote, "Even if I had committed every sin, I would still trust in his mercy." This was not naive optimism. It was deep, spiritual insight. For Thérèse, weakness was not something to hide. It was something to bring honestly to Jesus. She understood that he delights in forgiving those who admit their smallness with humility. Imagine Thérèse in the chapel, the wooden pew cold beneath her hands. She feels a sting of impatience toward another sister. She feels regret. She feels her limitations deeply. Instead of retreating into self-criticism, she lifts her eyes gently to the crucifix and whispers, Jesus, forgive me, and help me love again. This simple prayer becomes her strength. Forgiveness is not merely about cleansing the past. It is about healing the present and freeing the soul to love again. Weakness becomes dangerous only when it leads to discouragement, but weakness offered honestly becomes a doorway to grace. When you say, Jesus, forgive me, you are doing something sacred. You are admitting your human fragility. You acknowledge that you fall, and that is okay. You are trusting in his mercy. You believe he is kinder than your fear. You are choosing relationship over guilt. You refuse to run away from him. You are allowing him to heal you. This is humility at its purest. Think of your own life. How often do you hide your mistakes? How often do you feel embarrassed to pray after you fall? How often do you tell yourself that you must fix everything before returning to God? Thérèse would gently smile and shake her head. She would tell you, Jesus is pleased when you come to him immediately without hesitation, like a child who knows she will be embraced. Forgiveness is not a transaction. It is an encounter with love. Jesus is never surprised by your weakness. He is never disappointed in your limitations. He is never tired of forgiving you. Weak souls, the ones who say, Jesus, forgive me, with simplicity, are the souls he holds closest to his heart. So when your weakness weighs on you, do not turn inward. Do not punish yourself. Do not delay. Lift your eyes softly and whisper, Jesus, forgive me. I trust your mercy more than my failures. We have walked gently through the little way with Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, discovering not grand prayers or heroic acts, but 5 small phrases, 5 little seeds of love, that have the power to transform your weakness into intimacy with Jesus. And now, in this final block, we gather everything into a soft, luminous conclusion that whispers to your heart, weakness is not a place of failure. Weakness is where Jesus comes closest. Picture a quiet evening. The sky is dim. A soft light falls across the room. Your heart feels tired, fragile, uncertain. And in that fragile moment, you recall the 5 small things Jesus longs to hear from you, not because he demands them, but because they open the door for him to pour his tenderness into your soul. Jesus, I need you. This is the courage to be honest, to show him the empty places, to admit that you cannot walk alone. And Jesus smiles at this truth because he created you to need him. Jesus, I trust you. This is surrender, not the kind that collapses, but the kind that rests, the kind that allows Jesus to lead you through darkness the way a father carries his small child through the night. Jesus, I love you. This is the offering of your heart. Not perfect love, not strong love, but real love. A small flame that flickers, yet warms the heart of heaven. Jesus, forgive me. This is humility. Not shame, not self-hatred, but truth spoken in tenderness. A child holding up scraped hands, trusting that the Father will heal and never reject. Jesus, take care of everything. This is the deepest rest. The moment you stop fighting, stop analyzing, stop fearing, the moment you fall into his arms and let him be God. Saint Thérèse believed that these small phrases, spoken gently, quietly, sincerely, please Jesus more than the most eloquent speeches. Why? Because they come from weakness, and weakness, offered with trust, is irresistible to him. Imagine Thérèse now, sitting in her little room in Lisieux. Her body frail, her spirit stretched, her breath shallow. She whispers the smallest prayers. No great works, no dramatic visions, no extraordinary achievements. Only trust, only love, only surrender. And heaven opens for her. Your soul, too, is precious to Jesus. Not when you are strong, but especially when you are weak. Weakness does not disqualify you from holiness. Weakness is the doorway. Weakness is the invitation. Weakness is the place where you learn to lean, to rest, to love, to trust. Jesus does not ask you for strength. He asks you for honesty. He does not ask you to perform. He asks you to come. He does not ask you to be extraordinary. He asks you to be small. He does not ask you to never fall. He asks you to fall into him. And so, as this journey closes, let these 5 small phrases become the rhythm of your heart. Say them in the morning. Say them at night. Say them in your weakness. Say them in your joy. Say them as often as your soul needs. Your weakness is not a burden to Jesus. It is your offering. It is your little way. It is the place where love meets you.